Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Classic Quest podcast. This is the show where we break down the classic hip hop albums track by track, talk about them, give our thoughts and opinions, whatever strikes us. My name is Holden Stephan Roy.
I am your lady friend, Bonnie.
And today we will be walking you through the second part of Eyedea and Abilities' Firstborn album. And why is this the second part? Because we spent 2 hours.
Because we talk a lot.
And 9 minutes going through tracks 1 through 10 plus lots of tangents, and you should definitely check that out before you go ahead and watch this video, simply because it will make a lot more sense. However, let's say you just want to hear about tracks 11 through 18 plus the bonus song we'll be talking about today for you, Mr. Ismail, as this is the Patreon request. Well, then you can just start here, and we'll do our little jibber jabber.
Yep.
We'll spend a little bit less time, and we'll get to it a little bit quicker. But we put out part 1 today, a few hours ago, and we did get ourselves a few comments. So I feel like this could be a cool trend for the part 2 to encourage you to comment on the part 1, like when we release it. That we'll just put all the comments that we got between the window, as long as they fit. Like maybe one day we're popping and we get a lot of comments. I don't promise to uphold this forever, but we got 3 comments.
In the meantime.
And obviously the homeboy Ismail Gadamsi put a pretty good comment, and he describes some interesting shit, how he's one of the best battle rappers. And so I clicked on that little link, see there, and you see Eyedea going at it, and then like this dude starts dancing in the stage, and he just turns and he's like, yo, and now he's my backup dancer. And you could just tell this is all fresh, and like it's really sick, it's really dope.
Cool.
Started to watch the freestyle that he posted in the second link, got a little distracted, but I started it. And then just the fact that, like, yeah, he had the Scribble Jam MC battle and the 2000 Blaze battle and the other battle, and then was offered a deal by Bad Boys but refused it. And I remember reading on the wiki page that he refused it in part to help Slug and his homeboys build up Rhymesayers Records, which just shows this desire to, like, the reality is that, imagine
He's very loyal.
But imagine he had gone with Bad Boy. I mean, there was no way we would have got this album. It would have been impossible. It just, in fact, there would have been fireworks and stuff going on. There would have been shiny pants involved. It would not have been or maybe Diddy. No, because that's when he turned into Diddy, and then that was a weird time.
Okay,
Like,
there would definitely be like a wind machine somewhere.
Ain't nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. Just compare that to like Eyedea. That is such a contrast. Anyway. Abilities also won some fucking DJ championships, and tonight in Montreal there's a DJ championship going on of some kind, and I'm not going to it because I'm really just bad at going to shit, but like I wanted to, and I wanted to let people know that Montreal's got some hip shit like that going on. Since I'm reading books, boom, I'll link to all the books that he read or whatever. I didn't click it yet, but I plan on it, and I'm like, that's cool, Ismail. I appreciate that. I might look into reading some of those books just because the shit that inspired this dude, fuck, I want to read that. And then, Slug and Eyedea are pioneers in emo rap. Respect it. I actually really like Slug too, from what I've encountered thus far, and it makes me want to review more Atmosphere. Bonnie needs to review Atmosphere, so it'll have to happen. Let us know if you're down for that.
One
shit
of my very good
comments.
friends like really loves Atmosphere.
You should find out if she really likes Eyedea and Abilities, because it probably would have been the same era, because this came out when y'all were in high school, and so it would have been like, you know, he would have been, I believe, alive back then. Rest in peace again.
I don't know if she listened to him like at the time, but anyways, I'm gonna mention this to her. Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. And then Mr. Lindell Williams, of course, he loves the experimental nature of the album. He gave it a 4.52. You'll find out our grades at the end of this video. And yeah, man, he left one hell of a mark in hip-hop. And I love that part of his comment, because I think that's a really cool way to look at it. And I just hope more people can discover this shit, because, like, when you talk about, like, a subject matter, something like content, in, say, like the pop rap market of today, and you talk to people about content, and they're like, yo, Eminem then killed it with them, and then you're like, yo, but like, did he write a song about being a fish? No, he didn't. I'd love to hear Eminem write a song about being a fish, or read some philosophy and get inspired by that shit. I think, you know what it is? I'm reading some harder shit in life. Maybe I just want harder shit in life. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being selfish here. But spoiler, I like the first part of this album so much that we talked about already. Anyway, and then BMO 90, he came in there. RIP. I thought that was a little clever, but also rest in peace because it's very sad what happened. He was fortunate enough to catch him live in 2009. That is pretty fortunate. I didn't really realize that I wanted to see him live until a couple of days ago and shit, but now it's a little too late. It's his favorite album by him. That's encouraging. It's a good album. The Dive Part 1 and 2 are amazing. And we'll get to those soon. And shout out to Ismail. Shout out to Ismail. Thank you for putting this one on the radar. Honestly,
that's nice.
Of all the albums I've never heard of, because like the ones that I've heard of, it's different. This might actually really rank possibly as one of my favorite ones of the ones I've never heard of before, like reviewing it, because it's
spoiler.
Very philosophically engaging.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so those were the comments, and I know I spent a bunch of time on that. Well, that's what it is. Special thanks to the patrons in advance before we get into it. Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prada, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black Hurricanes, and Lindell Williams. They're pretty dope.
You too can be on that list.
You could. We'll talk a bit about that at the end, but plug them at the beginning when you're watching because they're fucking dope. It's been a long day. It's been a long couple of days. It's summer hours, so I have to work late Monday and Tuesday. It's Tuesday when we're recording this, and so I'm a little goofy tonight. Anyway, let's get into it. Blibble Blabble, Eyedea and Abilities, we're new to them. We haven't talked about them a lot. Part 1, you should check that first. Let's talk about how there's a void and an internal theory.
All right.
I'm as they increase the level. I said I wouldn't sign shit because I didn't want to meet the devil, but I lost my mind and I'm trying.
Alright, so let's talk a little recap, and maybe I should have done that before cutting into the song. Whatever. So basically I presented my theory of the story, and I thought it was nifty because we just uncovered the dope-ass story of the Relapse album by Eminem. And you know, it's funny because when Chris Chrome, he's always talking about stories, so it gets my brain into like story mode. And then I started picturing this album, this Firstborn, as almost like a tale chronicling Eyedea's ventures into like discovering his own self in a sense. And we see in the first few songs, you know, one he kind of like I don't know, you can go through the other part for the specifics, but basically we kind of see as he discovers the fake shit in life and elevates himself consciously above what he previously did, found the isolation and the loneliness in it, and then almost like faded into like an intoxicated point of almost like at the point where in Big Shots it's like, you know, he's popping off as the rapper.
Yep.
He's got his shit coming, which makes total sense why Void Internal Theory, which just kind of starts off with like such an interesting idea scheme where silence is what we all need for a minute, dying is what we want to avoid while we're living. Like, you know, it's like immediately after, it's like, okay, from when you're at the top, or, you know, when you're finally getting your dreams, then what happens? All of a sudden maybe you start to combust a little bit. Right. And I think that's what we see happening here as he starts to reflect on a bunch of different shit that's going on in his world. But before I talk a whole bunch, because I think I've already talked like 90% of this podcast, why don't you tell us what you feel?
Well, I mean, this one is only like, what, 2 minutes and 14 seconds?
Yes.
So it's short and sweet, so I don't really have too much to say about it. I mean, you might. Obviously, you do. So, like, I got out of it that it's like a very, like, nice, jazzy kind of sound, and basically about how we're all going to die, and you should look at the positive side of life and just, like, enjoy it, and like, that's pretty much what I got out of it. And I like the refrain that he says at the very end. He says it over and over. Nothing gets you nowhere, but everything gets you somewhere. One pair of shoes is great compared to 2 feet trying to run bare. So it's like true. You should be happy with what you have instead of kind of complaining about what you don't have or trying to do something without it, because, you know, like, it's just sort of, you know, just be appreciative and just about, like, gratitude, I think is what it is. So I give it a 4.25.
I mean, gratitude is definitely I don't know if I got gratitude from it. So I actually really kind of related to this song a bit, because I picture him at a point where he's rhyming, he's got his shit going, he's doing his stuff, but maybe he's still really grinding, and people might not necessarily care. And this might be like, so it feels like he's trying to keep his integrity, and he sees like such a great awareness of the world, you know? The screams sort of seem like we're crying, reaching towards our dreams. I offer an exhausted sigh. You know, he's pursuing his dreams and shit. He's, you know, I mean, we've established that.
Yeah.
Rhyming keeps the posture of my back in fair condition, so why in the world do I do this music when so few people listen? So in a sense, it's like you have the pursuit of the art form and the craft and the rhyming and the music as like a motivating agent that almost balances out your soul. As we've discovered earlier, he's got some turmoil going on. Simultaneously, maybe the fan base isn't exactly as loyal or stable, or I don't really know how popping is in 2001, to be honest, but like, given the level,
he's just starting up, right? So,
well, I mean, you've still got some buzz through the freestyling and whatnot.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure.
I mean, so it's more like, no, I think this song is like realizing that he's so smart with his rhyming that he's never going to pop and become like that huge sensation. Like climbing a mountain that might eventually crumble is a bumpy ride into the light side of where life where no one goes. Violent saturates are surrounding, my heart is pounding, etc. But like, you kind of look at it like he sees this obstacle, and it's infallible. Like, it's such a risk. It's such a not, such an uncertain thing. And I suppose with the amount of time and energy we put into doing these shows, and every pursuit in my life that I've done for the last like 6 or 7 years of my life, it's like, I don't know, I hear this and I'm like, the dude is articulating things I have felt that I don't know that I've ever exactly been able to put the words into. And I'm like,
that's pretty powerful.
Because as he flows on and shit, it's like, I shine with this terrific twisted piece of metal, or sorry, strangely changing climate as they increase the level. I said I wouldn't sign shit because I don't want to meet the devil, but I lost my mind. I'm trying to find it in the dimension of space between bass and treble. And it's just like that, like, desire to keep your integrity and to pursue this art form and to do it all right, like, for the music. It's just so fucking noble, and you know based on his choices that it's a legitimate thing, you know? Chatter is the substance that comes from most people's mouths. Matter is what you don't to me. He or she, we don't to we. Dude, that's a fucking science and like fucking philosophy bar. So talk comes out of people's mouth, right? And then chatter. Matter is like the space and the essence of other things. And so that kind of is an interesting way to play off of how words are kind of matterless. And then you don't even fucking matter. I'm like, oh, I don't get half the gangster shit, but I got
all the nerd stuff.
This was fucking good, man. But hopefully we can gather together and figure out about what life's about, patterns of emotion. And I'm like, hold up, did he just say that on top of that he wants us to collectively get together and philosophize? I'm loving it, man. Like, this is just, I guess it was almost like we need more people willing to express this base level of humanity, because I think at some level most people can honestly relate to what I think this song is trying to convey. I mean, most of us think we're smarter than we probably are. Most of us honestly probably don't feel that connected to the world around us anymore. And I think that what he's writing here is almost a blueprint for what a bunch of millennials with the entire world in the palm of their hand would end up going through, if you really consider what this is. I mean, we're all on the grind. Yep. We're all pursuing shit aimlessly. Very few of us will succeed. You know, like, life is not simple right now. But then you look at that shit. Rappers mold their soul into plastic and get filthy rich. The ladder to paradise is infested with parasites, and if you don't ride in the carriage right, the rhyming, I don't think I mentioned it yet on this part.
Pretty awesome.
It's fucking next level. He's very, very good at what he does.
Yep.
The ladder, and if you don't ride, whatever, you swear that life's a bitch. So on that point, it's like, basically sucked a corporate cock and played a game. And yo, I'm reading a book currently right now called How to Win Office Politics, the 90s edition, because I don't think there's a newer one. Yo, it's legit shit, man. It's like 48 laws of power, but more directly related to work. And man, then it's kind of like Machiavelli's The Prince, and it's kind of like this other shit. And there's like, it's honestly how to win friends and influence people. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. All of these books touch on the same base logic in a sense, and I'm like, yo, the world is like, if you play the evil game, you probably get rich. If you're willing to say whatever, pander, and do whatever, it's true, man. Like, yo, if we made 15-minute reaction videos for the last 2.5 years, promise we'd have like a 6-figure sub count right now. But like, I think the world needs more deep dive shit and less shallow superficial stuff, so we do this instead. And I don't mean to like toot my own horn or some shit, but it's facts. I mean, go look. This is the 502nd video on this channel, okay? That's a lot of videos that we've made with the effort to try to look deeper into what hip-hop has to offer.
Well, not all of them are about hip-hop,
but
a lot of them are.
Like, say everything we talk about, you're right, about 250 to 300 of them are about hip-hop. And my point is that we really try to go deep into shit, because everything's so superficial these days, and I feel like Eyedea felt that way. And, you know, I'm sitting here basically going life's a bitch in what I'm saying, because I'm not riding that carriage. I'm not doing it right. I've tried to do it. I'm just really bad at it, so I don't do it right. But I'm learning. Mostly because y'all in the comments have humbled me the fuck out. So thank you, YouTube commenters, for helping me become a better person. And then that little...
And me.
I feel like that little outro bit kind of points out that, like, nothing gets you nowhere.
Yep.
And that's true. And I come from a little bit of a poorer situation, and I made it out, but most people don't make it out, from what I understand, because of mindsets and things and lack of opportunities and stuff. And let's say you have to be willing to do some shit you're not proud of. In my case, it was training people to help them sell things people don't need. And, you know, it was really...
But, I mean, it's a job.
It was
people
legal.
People have been doing it.
But it was shady, what we were doing. And in my soul, it was like, it was wrong. But I got promoted because I did some wrong shit. And it's not illegal. We never crossed the line. But if you ever work in some call centers, you'll understand what the fuck a gray zone is. We never crossed the line, though. We never broke the law. So you're able to sleep at night, kinda, maybe? Nah, my job's
Well, you can
great.
sleep on a very comfortable bed because you've got, like, a shit ton of money.
But, like, I mean, right now I'm comfortable in life. Not comfortable, but, like, I don't have to stress in life like I used to when I was younger. But it compromised some shit to get there, and it really makes me appreciate what he's saying here. So with stuff like art and my creative projects, it's like, I don't want to do that. Did that, doesn't feel nice. Don't want to do that ever again, you know?
Yeah.
So I really like that. But then he goes, nothing gets you nowhere. You know, that's true. Everything gets you somewhere. But that's it. It's kind of like somewhere. It's not very specific. So you can have it all, but what does that really mean? And one pair of shoes is great compared to 2 feet trying to run there. So the truth is, there is some middle ground between having it all and having nothing. Mm-hmm. And you need to learn how to maybe appreciate the shit that's in your life a little bit.
Yep. See, that's the gratitude. It's like the same thing that, you know, in the end, we basically said the same thing.
Yes. Absolutely agree with you. The beat's very jazzy and interesting, and it's kind of got this erratic tone to it, which makes sense because the last one was super flossy, and it's almost like, yo, almost picture him on stage, and then now we're inside of his mind when he's backstage and the show's over and shit like that. So I thought it was super fucking cool. I gave it a 4.5 on 5, and I love his just way of capturing the world and observation. It's like everything I hope to do with my music is basically what Eyedea's already done. And that both makes me sad and happy at the same time. Anyway, the next track, I guess we can go on to there, is called The Dive 1.
You're losing your mind. Try to think of when it started and ask yourself why, but each thought...
Alright, Bonnie, how do you feel about The Dive 1?
Well, I think that he is basically diving in and asking weird questions. Overall, like, the sound is sort of like creepy a little bit, and you learn more about like personalities and like how humans work, and then the more you learn, the more life becomes pointless, is basically what he's saying. And everyone is crazy in their own way. Yes, of course. And every person has to like escape their brain, and like maybe like with knowledge, I'm assuming, or like maybe with like a substance, but I think he's probably talking about knowledge. Because you should just keep learning, and about like almost going crazy, like because you're learning so much, and it's like it's difficult. I think I agree with him. Like sometimes when you learn things, it's like you can't unlearn them. It's like you know them, and now you can't get like, you know, sometimes horrible things out of your head. Sometimes amazing and great things, but you know, sometimes like it's just like overwhelming. Like sometimes the knowledge that you can accumulate randomly. But I mean, you guys all know that too, I'm sure. And yeah, so I just think it's about, you know, people getting lost in their thoughts and ending up thinking curious thoughts like what he thinks, and everyone is scared, and you're basically slowly going crazy because the more you know, the more you could go crazy, I guess. So I think it's an interesting concept. It's just sort of about like diving into your crazy and like free soul, like just to, yeah, just that, I guess. So I gave it a 4.25.
I really like this. It's kind of like he's in the last song had some kind of an epiphany of sorts that kind of brought him to basically feeling like a certain point where he gets lost inside of his mind. It starts out with a question: how much of it is real? I'm like, you know, skepticism sets in and lessens your appeal. Next, you study conspiracy, develop some theories, and become extra wary of all your previous learned material. I mean, yep, check. Like all of that in my life, I went through that, especially lately. Like, I mean, I don't remember when it was, but somewhere around 2014 or 15, I realized that you could just learn things. You know, you could just learn.
Yep, you could definitely just do that.
No, but I mean, like, not the way you think with school. Because when you leave school, you feel like learning is this process where teachers give you homework, and it's a process that's not fun. But then one day I got curious, and I learned all sorts of atrociously terrible shit in our history and whatnot. But like, you start learning, and then you start meeting people who challenge your conceptions of things. Like, you know, when you
like
start
even just like read like a Wikipedia page every day. Like you can do that where you just like randomly hit.
But I mean, like, you got to keep in mind there's some shit. Like, you watch the X-Files, and then you realize that Edward Snowden, I believe it was, leaked a bunch of shit that validated a bunch of shit that made a bunch of people who look crazy no longer look crazy. And then you realize some of the crazy shit that people, like, kind of almost predicted that has come true and whatnot. And then you start to compare it against the lessons that are taught. Like, somebody said to me at work, the truth is, man, look around this office place. Do you think other people are reading books like this office politics book, man? Just because you're reading it, dude, it's over. Like, you're going to be able to win in a way that other people can't. And that's the truth of how the world works.
Yep.
And then you look around at people who just don't care or are oblivious to it, and you're like, the fuck? And then you realize the brainwashing that goes into like everything. And then your tolerance for stupidity degrades. If you go watch me in the 2017 videos, you will see what tolerance for stupidity degrading looks like when I unload on Chris in certain episodes. I promise, that's just part of my past. It's real. It happened.
Sorry about the fire truck.
We're opening the window because it's fucking hot in Montreal. It's down to like 2 weeks ago. We're in hoodies. Now we're in tank tops.
Yep.
Welcome. Anyway, most of your friends are trapped in a maze. You're narrow your associates down to the few you can stand. I'm like, is this my life? Yes, this is my life, because this is honestly what what happens when you go down the knowledge path and you realize that, first of all, nobody wants to talk to you when everything you talk about goes serious. And everything I talk about, you guys watched me, I don't really do shallow very well. And you even wonder what's going on in their head of yours. So they even wonder what's going on in your head. You study East and West philosophy, psychology, physics. I'm like, yes, I did do all of these things. You think, well, not as much on the philosophy. I'm kind of I like to study philosophy in the less direct ways. Like the
I
weird
took-
shit inspired by philosophers, like this album, is a better way for me to. I should read the shit I know.
I took several classes like in university of like political philosophy, like ancient and modern and like early modern and late modern and just kind of like overall general philosophy. So I feel like I've got like a surprisingly, like I was kind of interested in it. Like I kept taking more classes. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, you know, it's not like so difficult, and you're actually learning about like interesting thoughts, you know. And so I mean it's cool.
Yeah, and then he does drugs.
Yeah.
And hallucinogens, though, right? And that's
So
the
you
part
can-
that's fascinating, right? So I've done mushrooms. It was really, they say it changes your life in a way. You really don't. You do your mushroom trip and you start thinking
you do your mushroom trip.
and you start thinking about shit a little bit different. But when you sober up, you remember that you thought about shit a little bit different. And I suppose there's some truth in that for me, at least. MDMA is more on that ethereal, hallucinating, pleasure side of shit. THC is classified under the hallucinogen category of stuff. So you tamper with your reality maps, and when you're tired, your reality maps are a little more tampered with than normal, even if you're recording and shit. You know what I'm saying? Who am I? What am I? Am I forever? Kinda, yep. That's what I think about weird shit like that. All information breathes in the shallow. I mean, I know I'm going line by line, but like you don't understand the feeling I had hearing this song in terms of, wow, this is my life, like my recent, what I'm going through almost socially and educationally within myself. The last few years of my life is like that verse. I'm like, holy, maybe not so much hallucinogens. I haven't done things like real drugs in a very long time. Have you ever felt yourself slipping away? Yep. Where you all think about your sanity and how is the kid? You can ask her. Yep, I definitely do. There's no place to run, no place to hide. Yep. You can't escape from inside. I'm like, holy shit. This is like real. But like when you think emo, you think slit my wrist and she broke my heart, I'ma die, and some other rock. But this is not what I want. This is the real emo. This is that shit I actually feel, you know? Cry to your God, act normal to your peers. Oh my gosh, I literally wrote about that on my like EP that I dropped, about how fucking hard it is to act fake and shit and normal, and what if God ain't hearing you? I mean, I know God's hearing me. I never lost faith in God myself. That's only fear. Each day you think about your I'm like, holy crap. I mean, I could run through the rest of this song. I may not do that because it might take a while and Bonnie will kill me. But like, it's just incredible how much I can relate to it. To that third verse where you finally realize you've always lived in hell and no human model or metaphor can explain how you felt. The puzzle's alive and it changes you, try to escape it. Now, if you were to ask me in 2017 or whatever, honestly, the way I felt was a lot like this. 2018, beginning part of that year, a lot like that, where it just felt terrible. And you're scared and you're alone and there'd be no problem if you didn't care. But you fucking care because, as Bonnie said, you can't unlearn the shit that you know. And now you've truly formed an opinion about heaven. It starts out with a question and this is what it ends in. And then it goes into that chorus again, you know. But it's like the idea that you basically, it's like I had this conversation with people. It's like, once you start taking on that quest of knowledge and growth, and especially if you want to use your powers for good in a sense, like educate others and spread the truth of a message, it's like you dive in to madness. And
Yep.
honestly, for a long time, I don't know that my brain was very sane. I was feeling and writing some dark shit. I mean, literally, I think one of my hooks is waking to the urge to put a gun up in your mouth, you know. But there's better ways to figure it out, is the next line.
Yes.
But, like, I was in some fucking rough places when I was dealing with shit.
Well, I think most people, if not all people, maybe, I don't know, maybe not all, but I think, you know, everybody goes through like
Let's say a
hard
lot
times.
of millennials feel these more extreme versions, though.
Well, I
Maybe.
mean, I think everybody, you know, as a teenager has gone through something where they wanted to kill themselves.
This isn't
and
as
it
a
was-
teenager. This
you
is as a
know.
grown-up. For me, at least. This is based on... But it's not just that. It's because you wake up and you start learning this shit, and it's because nobody wants to be your friend no more, or you don't want to be friends with them no more.
I assume it's whenever something like dramatic happens in your life, or
but it wasn't. It was because I kept getting smarter and learning more and becoming more aware, and so I stopped making.
That's dramatic.
Well, it was gradual. It was a very long and over years lengthy process. I stopped making racist jokes. I stopped making sexist comments. I stopped being that person, and I turned into a different person. And the thing is the person I turned into didn't even connect all the other groups, really, because the truth is I'm on that knowledge quest. And so I turned to the internet because I got so fucking lonely in life trying to connect with people. It was like nobody wanted to catch up. It was like, and then the other part of it is all the other really smart people were just way too smart to even consider me on their level and shit. So there I'm stuck like, holy fuck. And I'm just trying to find a pure and righteous path and figure out my own shit. I know it sounds like fluffity fluff, but like to then get to that point where you're like, this is pointless. And then on top of that, the part where you're trying real hard and you're failing. You're not succeeding. You're not necessarily winning. You're maybe trying to find that middle ground of happiness. But like, end of the day, it's just that. I never wanted to kill myself, but there are also days where I woke up and was like, what is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
Why am I doing any of this? I don't feel like that anymore. You YouTube comment people have really made an impact on me. But it's not just that. It's just over time you can get past it. And I believe that. And I think even on this album, we'll come to see that. Anyway, I love this song a lot, as you can tell. And it's just a 4.75 on 5. It is
nice.
Really gorgeous to me. So to the comment that said this is incredible, I'm with ya, homie. Let's talk about The Dive 2.
This is the wisdom of the ancients. Holding on to something contradicts our beings.
Bonnie, how you feel about this bad boy right here?
Well, so a little bit, further exploration into like your head, your mind. The voice in your head is yours. He's reminding you that it's you. When you hear, people, like when you're internalizing your thoughts, it's like that's you, like that's like your core, and he's just kind of saying like let yourself fall into like the madness, like just let go and just let it happen. And I think that this is pretty solid advice. I think that people, when you hang on so much to whatever it is that you're like hanging on to, like sometimes you just need to let go, and it's scary and you don't want to do it, but like you're gonna get taken into like a better place. So people, like I said, obviously have difficulties doing that, letting go of things or feelings or people or whatever. And you have to just kind of lose your mind to find it, he says. And I think that that's like a really cool line. And true. And he says that, he was slipping away, like he was losing himself, but he knows himself. And so he was able to like be okay. Like he knows like who he is at core, so he's smart, and I guess that's good. And like the last like minute and a half is just like the beat coming back and
it's so good.
Playing around with that, and it's just
so
like
beautiful.
DJ time, and so like it's just you
got it. There's some significance to that, right? Because you're right. This song is almost like, just to go quickly into the significance, it's the part. It's like you coming out of the dive, you're finished, you got your sanity back, or you lost it, but like, and then what was his like anchor, his saving grace, the thing that to him is the pure in essence? It's the music. So what's the perfect way to complement the essence of this song, but to let the music play?
Yeah.
I really think that was a deliberate point to convey that message in a subtle storytelling kind of way, while also letting DJ Abilities floss.
Exactly.
Do you like DJ Abilities?
I do. I really do. But for me, like, I didn't really, like, I mean, this song was good. It was okay, but it wasn't, like, a standout song for me necessarily. I found it a little bit long. It's 5 minutes, 14 seconds, and I don't know. Like, I think maybe just, like, dragged on a little bit. But I think it's about knowing who you are and coming to terms with that good, bad, ugly, the whole thing. And it's just like knowing who you are and just being okay with that and accepting yourself and being able to like move forward, understanding who you really are. So I think it's a good message. I give it a 4 on 5.
So if you pay attention, the last one, the years I was saying, 2017, early 2018, we're mid 2019. So basically, this is more of like the now version, right? Like after you go through that process, and it's a pretty grueling process, you actually come to the same epiphany. The voice in your head is mine. Like, in a sense, you control the perspective and narrative you have on things. And then you can just take a deep breath, because there is nothing to be afraid of. What you just did falls into the depths of existence. It's like you just figured out how life is almost supposed to work. Because if you think about it, we're supposed to become individuals within ourselves who can formulate our own thoughts and opinions based off of the ability to educate ourselves on relevant subject matter to become whatever. So in a sense, it's like you're growing up, but like in a spiritual soul maturity kind of way. Maybe this is what he's describing is this process that a lot of people maybe don't go through, and maybe that's why maybe the social maturity is kind of dipping these days and everything's so sensitive. Because if you're not able to go through that process of understanding the truth of the world to the point where you can come to live with it, which is I think what he's saying is like you'll come to live with that feelings of intensity. And then I don't know who does that these days. Anyway, this is not insanity. This is in fact the ultimate reality. The union of achieved is only possible in thoughts, no more. You'll never fall if you never fight. And I'm like, that's an interesting point, right? Because in order to get to the end goal, you have to fight. And if you've been falling, well, that's because you've been fighting, in a sense, in a good kind of way. So the people who never fall are also the people who never fight.
Exactly.
And I don't know that I want to be that person. Anyway, so here you are, now you understand you always were here, it's why you always ran, but you only run away for so long before you catch up with yourself and become part of the song. I'd like to welcome you to heaven you created. I tell the truth, this is the wisdom of the ancients. And that's kind of why I mentioned all those books before, because the Gospel of Hip Hop is another one. It's over there. It's another one that has that same universal message embedded inside of it, and these are just multiple different sources, different decades of existence.
Well, I think it's like the key points of humanity.
So I bet if I did go back and read all the old timies, they would all say the same shit that I'm getting in the new timies. Because KRS-One is a modern day philosopher, like abso-fucking-lutely, man. Yeah. He basically tried to invent his own religion and faith in the way he constructed it in turning hip hop into a bigger culture, and I highly commend his philosophy in the way he put it together. Holding on to something contradicts our being, so fly free. And I think that has a lot to do with ideologies. And I think if you consider the paradigms of how we structure ourselves today, left, right, woman, man, label. Labels are meant to be kind of descriptive, not binding.
Interesting.
Like, I'm a man because I'm a dude. What does that define? Not much. It's just as far as stats go, I'm a man. Does that mean I'm supposed to be anything? No. I'm a Jew. Does that count for shit? No. I'm not really religious in any means. I was just born that way, Like, I'm Canadian. Okay? Now, you can infer that, like, I probably dig poutine. I do. You can infer some shit, that I'm probably, given the fact that I'm born in 87, not going to be jumping on pink, ironically. But, like, you can infer shit. That was a terrible example, but I think you got the point. But, like,
well, you failed, but
I failed, but the point was made. Ultimately, so, like, labels are interesting, but in this day and age, we hold on to labels. Like, to be a liberal means I must be, and take...
But, like, liberal is also, like, a label. Like it's also that too. It's like, you're liberal. This is, what we imagine you to be.
But then it's like, it went from being almost like these labels were checks boxes used to describe shit to these labels became almost things we aspired to be with these really hard definitions. And it's like, Can you imagine being a liberal who's also okay with guns? Because I'm a liberal who's totally okay with guns. She doesn't like that, but I'd fucking own a gun if I could. I don't have any problem with them. I have problems with certain aspects of the accessibility of guns, but I'm also a liberal.
And the interesting thing is, I grew up in a house that had guns in it, and like as a child, like we were not allowed to like really play with guns. We weren't even allowed to like do like a shooting with our fingers. Like we were like, no, like don't do that. Like it was very like anti-gun, and yet there were guns in our house.
Yeah. But I was in the country. I was in the city. It's different. In the city, if you have a gun, it usually has a different connotation.
Like, they were hunting guns. Like, they were, like, legit. Like, he went hunting and, you know.
But then I love the third verse of this track because it's like he strips his ego away from the whole situation. I'm not a poet or a communist, a comet or a star. Maybe he is a communist. I don't really know. That seemed like the first time we talked about communism. Has there been communist elements throughout this that I just didn't know about? Because I don't really read that shit. I should. I will. You're not a genius or a prophet. You just are. I'm not insane because I have no need for my sanity. It's just another chain that keeps me from reality. Now, I've said shit that mirrors what he's saying in less elegant ways in my life because, honestly, like, I could probably go pop some pills and fucking fit in. I'm certain there's a pill out there that would normalize my fucking attitude and shit. And then I could be like, whatever. But I love when he goes, reality is mine to play with and mold. The best thing I ever did was let go. Because, again, that is how I feel like my life is right now. I'm conceiving things and trying to create this new way of being in a sense. Whether or not I've been successful is very different than my intentions and what I'm trying to do with this all. So I think this is just, again, super fucking relatable. The fear you once had will become love. Feel the love. You know who else had this very epiphany recently? Kanye West, man. Because this, honestly, like, some of what it sounds like Kanye's been saying really feels like the Dive Part 1 and 2. You don't have to agree with me, but I really listen to what Kanye is trying to say. I don't just superficially consider the words coming out of his mouth, because the truth is, if you listen to the words coming out of my mouth and you don't ever try to hear what I'm trying to say over the course of my life, there's so many times where I've clusterfucked myself and said the wrong thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, on camera, certainly I'm a lot smarter about what I say, but in my normal life, at 7:30 in the morning when I'm not paying attention, man, like, it's so easy to pull a Kanye. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're not really, if your brain's going like this. So when I picture what Kanye's been like lately and I listen to this song too, I'm like, yo. And then my favorite, and it's funny because this morning I was listening to Feel the Love by like Kids See Ghost or Kanye or one of them. And it's just like, yo, that's, in a sense, the ending point of him is where Kanye's career has ended up at. That's fucking interesting. Interesting to me. You don't have to agree with me that Kanye is profound in any way, but I also think then you probably don't listen to his interviews and shit and really listen to what he's trying to say. You might just focus on the words he chooses to say, and I think that's silly. Go listen to Kim Kardashian's interpretations. Yep. Anyway, this song's a 5. It's a fucking banger. Like, I don't agree with Bonnie. I think this might, because again, like, the feelings of the pain on the last song, the memory, it's not the same as the memories this song invokes, or it feels like the today and now, and I feel powerful and in control of my shit, you know? Like, I understand that there's a universal truth and life is hard, but yo, through the love of everything you can get through it. I sound so corny, but I've been trying to really embrace the love lately and not be a hater, and it's been working in my life. So 5 on 5.
All right.
On that note, you can say we've been focusing on the mental well-being. Since whoever the fuck it was rejected it, why the fuck are there lyrics on Genius to this song? It makes no... you can see it now. It makes no motherfucking sense. It's an instrumental. I proposed the lyric edit to make it instrumental. A motherfucker blocked that shit. Why? The song is called Well-Being, and guess what? It's Eyedea Abilities doing the music thing, right? Because that is where he finds his bliss and his well-being. Can we just state this is stellar?
Yep.
It goes quick, it goes slow, it scratches in and it scratches out and it does a bunch of shit. It's a cool instrumental. It's got tempo switches in it. Some kind of shit's thrown in. 5 on 5. This shit's a banger.
Hell yeah. I mean, it has like a pulsing beat that feels really cool, like on the ears. Like, I like shit like that. Like, I like it when there's like something extra, like when you have like headphones on, especially like really good headphones on, like you get something more out of it. And like the clip from the very beginning is a clip from Pulp Fiction that I would know like anywhere. It's like the beginning of Uma Thurman and John Travolta's dance scene. It's like the ladies and gentlemen, like, and the moment you've been waiting for. Like, it's that guy. Like, it's literally like it's that clip 100% thrown in there. So I think that's really cool. Like, it's just like awesome, amazing DJ skills, like mixing skills. Like, I don't know the technical term, but everything is great. And like, this is like his time to like show off, and it feels cool as all hell. And it's like, it's almost like ASMR, but better. And it's like hypnotizing. Like, it's just so good. Like, I would listen to this like all the time. Like, I added it like right away to like my like playlist. And I like the ending where it's like free. Like, I like that ending. Like, I think it's cool. 5 on 5, 100%.
And it really fits in, right? Because he's just kind of come to terms with himself. And then we got this like crazy explosion of music, because, you know, it's almost like that is the perfect expression of happiness, and that's a fun fucking time. Or
it's just being free to do anything. It's letting go and just like, you know, it's like that.
I really liked it. Then we move on to the Red Wiped in Blue.
I wish he died instead of mom. Maybe then I'd love my family, but I'd smile at Pop.
I have so much trouble fitting this song into my story. Because all of a sudden, we get this really, really, really cool song that describes his parents, where his father represents America and American culture, and the mother represents the immigrant background.
Was he Hungarian? Is that right?
He's part Lebanese and Irish.
Okay. Right.
And so there's kind of like this whole other side. And I never knew my mom. Once I was born, she was dead. She never wanted me. At least that's what my dad said. So if you think about the context, he's born here. You're an American citizen. Your mom's not around. Fuck that shit. You know, he said she was polluted, ignorant, and uncivilized. That is what America says about shit like Lebanon. I'm just throwing it out there.
Do they say that? Do people still? I mean, Lebanon?
I mean, 2001 for sure.
I guess.
I
mean, they're brown people. I feel like
I
throw them in with everyone else.
I believe Lebanon is better off than a lot of the other countries in the hood, but I mean, when you see the Green Mile, it's not like Lebanon's flowing in forests and stuff. However, I hear it's a beautiful and gorgeous place, and I absolutely want to go. And I'm not trying to group them in, but if we're talking about America and the Middle East...
Yeah, I guess. They're just like the general. They're like over there, wherever Europe ends.
But then if you consider it, he's going to look Arab to the eyes of everybody. True. It doesn't matter where you're from. I grew up in a house with more rooms than I could count, like all these states and shit, no siblings, just strangers moving. Anyway, Dad hated all our neighbors. Had they stepped on his profits, they'd be finished, because getting his is what he's about. Ever since birth, he's a nuisance to humanity. I wish he died instead of Mom, maybe then I'd love family. And, you know, so you get this sense of he's not very thrilled with America. And then, since when did America fall in between Lebanon and Ireland? You know, like, and that's an interesting point, because both those places have had a little bit of a tumultuous background. And from the Cron to the Leprechauns, that's like his background, you know? And then America's somehow in the middle of that, which is just interesting. Anyway, Mama was a lullaby. Daddy was a melting pot. Angel in my father's eyes, only because it helps him ride. Freedom screams through the sky, wounded by culture shock. And that is an interesting point if you think about the philosophy America preaches against what really happens. Like, they claim a lot of shit. Canada claims a lot of shit. But, Quebec passed a law saying no religious symbols in public servants or anything. Because, we all about supremacy of that Caucasian culture up in this shit. I think the cat just knocked the freaking camera. Yeah, sorry about that. The cat did knock the camera. Anyway, and then it really flows in from there. I don't feel the same compelling need to go through all the lines because I don't relate to this. I am the Caucasian born here. But there's shit like gave me a 9 to 5, made me ignore the lullabies, a puddle of dried tears, shed the colorless, and categorized me as a baby fan to realize how far away his mother is. And like, I love the idea of how like work and these constructs of society are put in place to distract us from shit. Because, I mean, work is a weird one. Like, why do we work 37 and a half hours a week? Why is that the magic number, right? Or 40, depending on where you're at.
Well, because we
Factories from 100 years ago.
No, it's because there's you can divide the day into 3 parts. There's work, there's pleasure, or passion, whatever, and sleep. Those are the 3 parts of the day, and it was constructed like, I don't know, in like the 1600s or something like that. Like,
I mean, the modern 40, the modern work week was attached to the Industrial Revolution with the factories and unions and whatnot to restrict it all down. So basically, our work weeks in modern software companies and blah, 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 the hours you work is based off of what factory people did like 100 years ago. I'm maybe off with my numbers there, but the principle's on point. In fact, I bet they've done...
I feel like it had something to do with like maybe like Marx or like Lenin, like one of those guys, like, and how like communism and like how like they were constructing it as well.
Well, all I'm trying to say is I think the reason you go to work so much is because if you had the free time to learn, that'd be real bad for the super wealthy, right? And I know it's a little conspiracy theorist and shit like that, but you could probably cut the entire workforce to a 32-hour week, pay them the same, and see an increase in profit. Not a decrease, an increase in profit just from the stress decrease of humanity, right? That is what I would predict will happen. So if that's the case, then we only really
but then we would get used to that, and then that would be like the new thing, and then that would somehow stress us out, and then we just don't want to work.
But the whole point of technology, I know this is tangential, this is what you get here. The whole point of technology is simply to make sure we can work less. That's why we invented tech. Right? I don't have to handwrite the lyrics because Genius just has them here, which lets me review more albums. So I, in theory, can do more, but like, I don't know that there's actually a way to optimize album reviews more. But in a sense, if I could somehow make it faster, then I could do even more, or I could pursue other activities and shit, but ultimately live a more balanced life and whatnot. So it's not necessarily about like not having to work. It's about having to work 37 and a half hours because some institution created a 9 to 5 type life, which da-da-da-da-da-da, and this is just what it is. Mm-hmm. Why? It's so like, why do we all have to go to work at the same time and have rush hour? Why can't it just be flexible hours? Why can't it just... And these are questions I ask. And
because there's societal norms.
But why?
That are put into place by like government, by whoever.
So why are they still here? Control.
It works. We've gotten used to it.
But like, imagine, like, I'm just saying, we don't ask these questions. And I think that's kind of a weird thing. So then...
Because it progresses us. I mean, there are places where they don't do that, and we're like, well, they're not doing anything. Like, we're having to go and fix their situation because they're not doing anything. And so it's like that kind of...
And again, that might have been true 30, 40, 50 years ago. It wasn't. Back then, they were fucking things up.
Yeah.
But we are certainly not fixing things now with our corrupt culture that's falling apart. Our society is regressing, okay? This isn't working. This American dream?
Oh, yeah.
This 9 to 5 middle class life? It's not working. It's not sustainable. It's definitely not in Canada with stagnated wages and lack of opportunities.
Is, like, more and more that there is people like taking jobs where they can travel and do whatever, and it's more flexible. I think.
Who? Rich white people who have parents with money. Let's be real. Like, that's not real life,
people
man.
Coming out of university and stuff like that.
Again, which demographics? the small percentage of people who look really great on Instagram. That's Instagram and shit.
No, I'm not even saying Instagram. You can go and be a blogger. You can go and do this, like anywhere. I mean, essentially.
I'm not allowed to tell you how much YouTube makes, but we've got 5 Patreons, and this video might be at like 70 views when you see it. Trust, this is how much bloggers are going to feel if they really tried to do it. No. The people who can go ahead and do that are the people who, for whatever reason, have the wealth in their life to be able to just not work. I can't just quit my job. I like my job. I actually have a good job. I'm paid above the Canadian average. Like, things are not going bad for me. And I'm not even complaining so much for myself. But let's say I wanted to double my salary with integrity. Shit. I don't even know if that's possible.
You just go to school.
Then you'd go into debt and you would actually lose money.
Yeah, if you
go into school to study,
like a job that pays you like a shit ton of money.
But I'm doing better than most university graduates right now, depending on your field. There's a whole bunch of university grads that make
like engineers and doctors and stuff.
Sure, but I'm doing better than the rest of them.
Well, the people who took humanities.
I'm not trying to be like a shithead. I'm talking like I know what I make, and I'm comparing it against like averages and shit. I'm like, the Canadian average is posted, it's what it is, and that's just, these are stats, right?
Okay.
So I know a lot of university graduates that can't think.
Yeah.
I know a lot of university graduates with debt, and I know a bunch that maybe don't have the same opportunities in life that I forged for myself as a dropout. So even the fact that we're having this conversation, I think, is a byproduct of American propaganda. Like, going back to school wouldn't give me a better job.
Well, no, you said how you
double my salary in a short period of time. Going back to school would not accomplish that goal. Going back to school might get me an extra $15,000 a year. That is certainly not going to double my shit. You know what'll double my shit?
Moving to Alberta.
Not really, because I'm not in the right field for that. Well, double my shit is like, say I proved I could accomplish some shit that made X company a lot of money because of my skill set over blah, blah, blah. That would double my salary a lot faster than school. And that's kind of the truth of the situation. So the truth of the situation is skills matter. The weird thing that gets sold to kids right now is that degrees matter, when the truth of the matter is everybody has a degree, but it doesn't teach you anything. I'm really generalizing, and I do believe there are plenty of fields where degrees matter. Like, lawyers should probably have degrees, and doctors should have degrees and stuff. But the idea that university equals money is dead to me. That's not a real thing. That's a thing in very, very limited guaranteed things. Like, you could go take some certificate courses as a programmer and get paid more than a whole bunch of other fucking university graduates right now. Just as a context.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really off topic, but not really, because I think that, like, the fact is, like, America created this system of vanity that is based off of vanity metrics, like degrees, and it's not a meritocracy based off of who can actually contribute in what way.
Yeah.
There is no love.
Well, he definitely has an issue with them. Like, he already mentioned in Big Shot, like the guy who just has everything handed to him. Like, he's like, well, fuck that guy. Like, like he's I think he is a little bit jealous, but I think at the same time he's like, you know what? I'd rather be in my shoes than in his shoes at the end of the day.
And like, well, I don't know. I just feel like, again, once you kind of look at the impact of like what your culture has done to others and the distance between the suggested methodology for life and the expected outcome of it, like, look at what we were taught. Go to university and you'll get a job that pays you well enough to buy a house, have a car, and take a vacation every year. Okay?
Sure,
That's the thing that gets attached to that school thing, right?
Yeah.
Is that facts? I don't know where the fuck that's facts anymore. You know how you get that shit often? Daddy hooked you up with a job at a good company. Because daddy hooking that kid up with a job has kept a lot of those meritocracy-driven fuckers out of that job. I'm not trying to sound cynical. I'm okay with myself. But when I consider, like, let's say, other people and the global picture, it's like, yo, shit's a little wonky. a little bit wonky. That's all I'm trying to say. And I think this song, in the pro-America false culture versus, even exploring where he comes from, or the idea that other places might offer something of equal value, like a parent, just different parents, and how one parent just shits on the other parent's point of view. It's really cool. I don't know how it fits into my bigger story for this album, but I really like the song still. I give it a 4.5 on 5. It's fucking dope lyrically. Got me thinking. I mean, we had this whole whatever.
Yeah. I'll keep it short. I like the kind of play on words on this one, because it's like red, R-E-A-D, like I read a book. Wiped in blue, it's like play on red, white, and blue. And it's sort of about being raised by like American society, being raised by like American culture, and how, kind of cultures just kind of fall into like the melting pot, and just like his, and like you're American, and you can still have like this like background, but like I don't know, it's interesting. And he's just kind of talking about like that, and like his experiences of being I think first generation American, I guess, from two pretty like different cultures, and he had to put down people in order to like raise himself up, and like that's that's not uncommon. Like you hear things like that, like like when you're bullying, it's like, or is it, I don't know, maybe not bullying, but it's like you're putting someone down to like feel better, I guess, about yourself. So it's like that kind of thought process, and like I think that he's like maybe he was being a little bit racist, or like he wasn't necessarily being the best thing, but like I think he's also like struggling like with his identity, and like really like understanding like who he is, and like what parts to connect with, I think maybe as well. So like it's a cool song. I just wasn't necessarily like a big fan of like this general story, but it was all right. It was not bad. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, back on track with my story of this album. Let's talk about the void external theory.
Voice becomes the past, present and future. Transportation becomes pollution as humans become computers.
I guess after contemplating on his culture and his heritage, and going through his whole process of coming to terms with who he is as a person and finding his well-being and shit, you're kind of left to realize that perspectives change. And things don't look the same as time goes on. So days do turn into years. They say that shit where like time seems to fly as you get older. Scientifically, it's because you register new situations as novel, unique, and significant. And as life goes on, you encounter less new situations just because life becomes more habitual. You go to work, you see the same thing, so you remember it less. Like my bike rides to work, I've done it a hub 100 times. It's like I don't remember it. It's autopilot. Another moment, another half hour of my life just disappears. It's got health benefits. It's super fun, but like from a significance point of view, it's just another day. And you don't feel like that when you're 21 and everything's new and hard. Nah, you feel like that when things are going well, I guess. A students turn into dropouts. Hi. Seeing the world from a creative angle turns into seeing it from a couch. I'll change it to this very chair right here. Orgasms become lifetimes. I guess, your fun escapades turn into significant relationships and such. Significant relationships are good, don't get me wrong. It's just different.
Yeah.
And then I must disagree with this next line. Bong hits turn into white lines. Who the fuck went from marijuana to cocaine? You in the comment that day, you're not the norm. I'm sorry, but people go from bong hits to fat blunts to maybe splatter and other weed-related things. They might get some oral sprays and some THC pills, but like, you kind of go into the weed ecosystem, and you don't need to leave. It's just a good eco. Like, what the fuck? You don't smoke a blunt, sit down on a chair, and go, I need a fucking stimulant to go. Nobody. Like, that's not what weed does. It's also not an actual gateway drug. So I'll give it to him. The propaganda at the time is that weed is somehow a gateway drug to cocaine. You know what it turns out is the gateway drug to cocaine, folks?
Cocaine.
Alcohol. People get drunk and do a line of blow to sober up. Go talk to people. They get smashed, do a line of blow. I can keep drinking. Keep drinking. Go a little too drunk, do some more blow. Keep the night going all night.
Yep.
That's the trick, folks. I have never had that night, but at a certain point I realized that's what people did as they told me stories of their nights, and I'm like, oh, that's why a lot of people start doing coke. It's not why they keep, and then they're salespeople. Different type of cokehead.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But if anything, you can say alcohol is what really gets people to fucking coke, right? Not bong hits. Weed makes people fat. You'll eat a lot of junk food being stoned. Don't get me wrong. You might get to a point where you love exercise. It's just, I mean, if you are that person that went from weed to cocaine, I'd love to hear your story, even if it's offline in a private setting. A face becomes a dartboard, and a cardboard becomes a house. Boys turn to men, enemies become friends, losing turns to winning, and the beginnings become the end. Now, if you'll notice, some of this seems kind of bad, but also part of this seems kind of like shit gets better, you know, and perspectives go on, and it kind of has like this summary feeling of like, yo, after all of my journey, I kind of realized I've learned some shit. Like, the potholes are lifted and the hot coals leave you blistered. A sickness becomes a teardrop. A cup of coffee becomes a long day. And that's interesting, just the way you look at things. And gosh, 7 cups of coffee definitely becomes an easy, manageable day. Your best friends, I might drink a lot of coffee though. I'll never touch coke in my life. Definitely drank a lot of coffee. Your best friend guidance becomes the wrong way. And that's an interesting point too, because you start to realize the people in your past aren't necessarily leading you right. And maybe you need new best friends. Or maybe you need to fight with your best friend a few times and get realignments. Transportation becomes pollution. This guy had no idea what he did, but he was so right. China. As humans become computers, I was just mentioning the cell phones. Time becomes space, mind becomes waste, and a person becomes less interest when a mic becomes an instrument. You know, and it's interesting there because it's almost like as you become more lyrical and making the voice something so beautiful, people do kind of lose interest the more good you are, in a sense. It's like, if you're gonna go, Sama Lama Duma Luma, you assuming I'm inhuman, what I gotta do to get it through to you. That's Eminem's like really fast part in Rap God. That's not that fucking dope, it's just really fast, right? Sama Lama Duma Luma. Really? I mean, I like the song, but if you really think about it,
there's not really much being said
at all in that whole fast part, and I do know it. I cannot perform it right now, but at one point there is a video on me doing it live on the net if you want to go see it. The 9 becomes a 0, and every country becomes one state. And that's fascinating because it's almost like moving into the future and projecting a bit how we all kind of end up in the same place. All you thought you knew was just a foolish assumption. Gosh, I feel like that a lot. That's kind of what happens, I think, with wisdom and maturity. Yes, everything is something, which correlates back to the other void track, right?
Yep.
And ties it together. But something is nothing. So, and I love that vagueness, right? So everything in our life actually amounts to something in a significant way. But the significance of that something will almost always boil down to nothing. And an interesting societal observation of that is absolutely just the falling relevance of the Beatles, okay? There was a time when I was young where people said the Beatles were going to last forever and be revered as the greatest of all time. I don't know that many 16-year-olds. Yes, you in the comments that feels that way, you're not who I'm talking about. But like, I don't know that many 16-year-olds that give a fuck about the Beatles. This isn't care or like. They just don't know they exist. Like, they're so insignificant to the youth that they're not even a blip on their radar. That's not timeless. Everybody knows Mozart. That's timeless. You know what I mean? Like, the kids know what the fuck a Mozart is because you can't dodge that shit. It's impossible. But somehow we're getting to an era where the fuck is the Beatles no more? They're all still dropping solo projects. Nobody cares. No, they don't. Go look at the crowds who get excited and the average age. It's not young.
Well, yeah.
And that's my point. That means that evidently the Beatles is not...
Because the baby boomers are still alive.
But that means that the Beatles might be something, but that something will turn into nothing. So it's really not timeless. I mean, yes, they might have a timeless impact historically because there's a lot of data.
People will still listen to them. I don't think they're it's like...
Yeah, people still listen to Big Band.
Yeah.
How many?
People still listen to Led Zeppelin. It's the same thing.
Right, but to call it like, but I don't think it's fully the same thing. Like the way people painted it, it's not. Like some people listen to Zeppelin, yes, but I don't think that like Zeppelin is the coolest shit in the world anymore. And even Zeppelin would be another thing that's fading in relevancy with this current generation.
Maybe.
You could maybe argue Chuck Berry or something, but even then, nah. Like a lot of these, like Chuck Berry or something is being kept alive because of an effort to preserve his significance in history.
Well, they're just making a new movie about like, what if the world forgot about the Beatles, and like, you know,
are they really?
It's called Yesterday, and yeah, it's what
I had
would
no
happen.
idea.
And yeah, so there's a movie that's coming out called Yesterday that's literally about that. And this guy, like, he knows all the Beatles songs, and then so they kind of just make him famous because he's just singing the Beatles songs that he just I don't know what the reason is, but everybody forgets the Beatles.
And it's because they're not kind of as timeless at a societal level as they were once painted, because yes, everything niche in the world, because everything is something.
I think Yesterday was actually the 10-year anniversary of Paul McCartney's Meat Free Monday.
Fair. So everything is something because the Beatles will count to some people, but in the grand scheme of things, that something is going to turn into nothing.
Did John Lennon say that?
No, Eyedea just said that. I don't know. Maybe Lennon said that shit. Either way, I really like this one again. Super lyrical, super interesting. Fucking blew my mind with just how fresh it comes off in terms of making me think about shit while still being awesome. Like, that's the thing. It's not like some dense ass book. It's not like reading Nietzsche. It's like it's like watching the summary of Nietzsche in a way that still provokes your thought, like philosophy is supposed to. 4.5 on 5.
I mean, this one is basically about perspective, I think, overall. I feel like this one kind of creeps up on you. Like, the flow is really sick throughout. And I think basically how things can change from what they once were. And like the perspective and looking back on it, and like, you know, the things that you learned from everything. And cool rhymes. I mean, it's an interesting song. I give it a 4 on 5.
All right. There's one more on the album proper. Yes, I know there's more we're going to talk about, but the technical last song on the album is On This I Stand.
Accomplishment, the pond was sitting still, so I threw a rock in it, and as my reflection rippled it all.
So what do you do after you tell us the whole story of how you kind of found your peace of mind, your mission statement, your raison d'etre, all of that shit? You put it down and you represent this I stand. And I think it's such a fitting end, because like this Firstborn album, right? It's their creation. And this is the process that almost led to the creation of this album being documented, which is so fucking cool. Because what is this like end song? Honestly, I mean, you should talk first so that I don't say it all, and then you're like, well, that's that.
I mean, I'll just kind of sum it up as usual. Well, whatever. It sounds kind of spiritual as well. Like he's kind of like, kind of touching on like this is like part of him, and you know, he takes it seriously, and it's like in his soul. And he's kind of just saying like he took his chance instead of wasting it. And you know, he did what he needed to do to get to the point that he was at. And they made this album as a biography of themselves, and this is what they're giving to the world. And like, I think he really writes with intent, and I think that, you know, Abilities too, I think he creates with intent. Like, there's thought process behind everything. Like, it's not just like, not necessarily just freestyling, you know, going at it for, you know, with no thought process, because I'm sure that there's thought process in that. It's just very, very fast. But I think it's more like curated. Like, I think that it's really interesting, just like the way that they express themselves. And you can really like kind of, you get to know them. Like, even like Abilities, like you get to know him by his music, just without him having to like say words. Like, it's really cool that like they're able to like express themselves so very well. And so I wrote down a few lines here. See, I don't write for the future. I write about the future for the present. I write with my past about the future for the present. On this I stand. So I think that that's
accurate.
Yeah. And I think that it's very, like, well said, like, kind of. And it's really cool, and I like it. And it's about, like, the purity of, like, creativity. And how this is a very creative album from both of them. So it makes total sense that, like, that's kind of what they stand on. This is who they are. You know, and I don't think it's just, like, you know, Eyedea's thoughts. I think this is also, like, Abilities saying, like, yeah, like, this is what we stand for. Obviously he's gonna say it, but, you know, I think that is something about him as well. I mean, not all of the lyrics are, you know, coinciding about both of them, but I think that this is something that they can both kind of stand for. It's kind of weird, but it's really complete, and there's sort of like a weird pause at the end as well, I think it is. And, like, the DJ, you know, we've got Abilities at the end again, kind of like saying, like, hey, like, you know, this is me, like, I'm just gonna, you know, do his little bit. It was really interesting. I gave it a 4.25.
He said bye to us.
Yeah.
Like, peace, adios. But, you know, like, it's nice. It was cute. From a lyrical perspective, this song has some of the most quotables on the reel. So our generation does not know the difference between love and lust. Like, they really don't. People fall in love when really their dick's hard or their vag is wet, and they're really into each other, and they want to jump down each other's bones and shit. That's not love. You fall into a relationship and you think a lot of things and you throw yourself into it, blah, blah, blah. Feels like Hollywood's version of love, but it's probably just lust. And then he clarifies the difference between us, as I don't think anyone's ever done so well. As the difference between love and lust clarifies as trust. Then you can be like, but I trusted that person I was in lust with. No, you didn't really trust them. You thought you trusted them, but when push came to fan, did you really trust them? Probably not. Trust is something that's forged through time and is tested. And only after it's really been tested can you say you trust it. You might be able to trust that I'm going to consistently drop reviews after, like, doing it for a while, but let's say I was flaky like that 1 month where we stopped doing Classic Quest. Yeah, I might doubt us for a quick minute, right? Trust is something that's tested, and then you can have love for it. Otherwise, it's just flashy. If you only had an hour to sum up your whole life, and this is the next line, would you spend that hour saying that an hour ain't enough? I was like, fuck you, and making me feel like I'm not even trying hard enough with my life anymore. Like, making excuses. And that's like a good shot at don't make excuses. Like, what you're just gonna keep stopping yourself? Like, just do it. And that's what he's doing here. I've escaped the shot that bound me to cowardice. Now I'm faithful to the wind, but compared to it, I'm powerless. And that's beautiful to me. Like, yeah, I'm out there and you can break free to change your shit. Like, there was a time where I don't feel quite like I could go out there and be me, the person, because I was scared. Because it's scary to put yourself out there, per se. Get called an asshole on the internet a lot, you stop caring as much. Now I'm faithful to the wind, but compared to it, I'm powerless. So just to the trends, to the flows and ebbs of life, but understanding what that means, you recognize how insignificant and useless you kind of are as the little plebs we are in existence, you know? Because even the most powerful Jeff Bezos is a pleb compared to nature. And that's just truth, you know? It's just really good. Or when he kind of talks about, like, being an artist, where see, a lot of time humans as artists exist in a self-projected state of falsehood, and that's true. We're all kind of narcissistic assholes that think a whole bunch of shit and suck with self-awareness. We're either too close to our image to stay objective in our perception, which is kind of like when you cling to what you believe to be true, which is, I guess, what most of us are guilty of today.
Yeah.
So I'm a liberal, so blah, blah, blah. And that's just, you're too close to that to be objective to what that means. You just start believing the shit you see on YouTube and you buy into the rabbit holes and shit. Or you're too far away to be subjective in any matter. And that's when you kind of get so distant from people and things through knowledge and quest and facts that, like, you don't really get to a point where you can form an opinion or feel anything on these things. Wide and devoid in social conformity introduced to our souls at birth and so outright Because, yo, the pressure's on us to be people. The way that we all are. Like, if you want to be an individual who can be a person, somebody's got to be out there and write that shit and represent that shit and write that shit down, put that time in. From the beginning, we're born, we're told we can't achieve shit. And honestly, even to this day, people will be like, why do you do things? I don't know, man. But it's because the world's fucked up and I can fight. So I'm going to fight until the day I die. And so I write. You know, that's just how I feel from this, man. It just flows in. It's just gorgeous to me, this song. It is one of the nicest closers of an album I think we've come across. And like I said, we've done a lot of these. And it's just the completionist of it. And unlike a relapse where...
It definitely feels complete. Like, you feel that.
So, like, on a relapse where you're like, wow, that story's really good, but there were some weird parts of the album. And, like, it's M, so it's super good. But serial killer, manslaughter... This is kind of like... We just did it last week. I can't help but compare it. But, like, this more feels like I want to be like Eyedea. This is some role model shit. Yep. Because that story he told, I mean, I want to tell my version of that story. I have before I heard this album. It's not a new idea to me. I had my own twist on it, but I like what he did with it. And this song is the perfect culmination of that. It's the victory. It's... I have figured out what I represent, who I am, what it all means, and on this I stand. This is my, like, flag I'm planting. This is the integrity of who I am. And this is what I stake my reputation in shit. And it's such a powerful, like, battle cry, in a sense. The oasis of a limbo adjacent to my generation. Anyway, 5 on 5. This song's brilliant. Yeah, that's what I gotta say about that one.
So let's check out Before and After,
which is the first bonus track.
You know, got balls, think you can fuck with a pro? I don't think so. You need to read.
Kind of starts off, and it's like it reminds me of like clinking bottles together when you're ready to engage a fight and be kind of creepy, but like taking that sound and like flipping it into like a beat. So it has this creepy little feel, and then it kicks in with the beat. And you instantly realize you're no longer in the story of that album. You gotta realize you're fucking with the baddest. Make these so-called rappers reevaluate their status. And I'm like, this is fresh, but my brain was not here, okay? My brain was not in this mode when I got here. It's a bonus song, I get it. And this kind of like has like them basically calling out whack rappers and claiming they the shit and pointing out that they can't compete. It is very much in the vein of being one of those. I don't want to call it an ego track because it's too good to just be like an ego track. It's more like we represent hip hop and y'all be fake tracks. That's a better way to put it.
Okay.
But how do you feel about it?
I think the thing that you're hearing at the beginning, I think it's 2 piano keys. It's 2 piano keys next to each other that are making that noise. And so I'm like, I like that because I like piano. And Abilities makes it work, and I think that's really cool. This is like kind of like a hype rap song. And it is like a little bit like, it is a little bit like an ego track, like you were saying, because they're saying like, they're gonna destroy you, like in like the rap battles, and like they're gonna make rappers like reevaluate their skills and like their rap game and like their battle game. And I like this one. It had like a more of like a fun ending, and he's just sort of like, nobody can copy me, like we're super unique, like, bring it on, because like you're just gonna get destroyed, and like they're the best there is, so deal with it. So it was nice, it was fun, I liked it. I gave it a 4.215.
Yeah, so in the first verse we have Eyedea. He's coming in. I don't brag and boast for pure recreation. If I say I'll serve a rapper, I'm just giving you useful information. You already proved that you're a fake, choking in a vocal booth, poking holes in your swollen throat, hopelessly redoing your takes. That's fresh, man. Basically pointing at like he'll murk a rapper. He doesn't have to worry because y'all have to redo your takes. And he is so fresh he can just off the dome it. And that's fair. Sometimes as a writer you don't know how to off the dome as well. And thanks for crushing my self-esteem Eyedea. No, but it's really fresh, man. That's some fucking killer. Like, this is the type of shit that makes me want to start going to listen to battle rap, because it's like, this is good. I'll whip that crew into shape, embarrass you so bad the arrogance you have will turn you into a voice telling you to move out of state. Because Because you know what's cool about his thing? Is he's like inside of your mind slashing at shit. That is true, you know? Wait, let me guess, you're the dopest out of everyone you know and you got the balls to think you can fuck with a pro? I don't think so. Oh man, it's too fucking good. It's like really... It's really like one of the sickest actual battle rappy verses of this nature I think I've heard when I think about his approach and how it empathizes greatly to how I would like go in and psychologically break somebody down. And I think that's cool, right? Because it's different than my gun's so big, which I really do enjoy a good My Gun So Big compilation on YouTube. Then we have Blueprint. I got the feeling I've already heard your verse, so any turn you take will only be a turn for the worse. I was like, oh, Blueprint's bringing it too. He's just as good as Eyedea, because that was really fun. And the truth is, so many rappers are fun enough that there is a My Gun So Big compilation type shit. That's the truth, and I know it hurts. You're so bad, I had the last laugh even when I rhyme first. Oh, because he gonna make you choke. I hear the front and I hear loud talking. I see posing and I hear the dogs barking. But listen, dog nuts, you ain't a hard target because every bar in your rhyme is just a nail in your coffin.
Yep.
And I really like it. And I don't write battle raps. I write eulogies. I'm like, this is going in, man.
Yep.
And it's fun. Okay, like you can't beat Blueprint or Eyedea. You can't see that. We'll give you a free L plus your sanity back, bitch. And I'm like, this is a fucking cool song. I don't know if you can see. Oh, you could see my finger. That's cool. Anyway, I enjoy this. Oh, there's a third verse. They go back and forth. Yes, that happens. I am a little bit tired. I'm sorry about that. They're fucking fresh. They kill it. 4.5 on 5. The beat's fucking dope. It's like a very different experience, and I like it as a bonus song because it's cool. It's like, yo, this is a whole different side, and I like it because as a person who maybe didn't know as much about his battle rap side and shit, it gives you a taste of that and makes you get a little bit wet in your appetite to go hear more of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, because we care about our Patreons, and I say it sincerely even though I never sound that sincere, we're going to do that extra song for you, Ismail. Even shadows have shadows.
Feeling like my enemy, concealing my identity, not dealing with my tendencies. I feel the skin and then I squeeze a real.
This one's kind of like a 4-minute solid straight verse, a barrage, and I think it's interesting because this is released in 2010 from what I can see online, so it's like we jump in way ahead. We just went like way to the end of the career.
Yep.
What do you think about this one?
It's interesting. It's got like a funky, classic, kind of a country sound to it, while still being like mixed in with like other sounds that like there. I don't know. It's really unique, kind of style. The beat and the rapping sound like they're almost at like the same level in terms of like volume level, and I like that because I think that, you know, it's often like the other way around. Well, not the other way around, where like the music is a little bit fainter than like the rapping and or the lyrics, and I like that like often either it's on the same level or it's even sometimes like the music is louder than Eyedea, and I like that on the album. But I mean, this is still like kind of another example of that. And you know, he's basically saying like he's a product of his society, and you know, he does things that people don't necessarily like or care for, and he's fine with that because that's who, you know, I think it sticks to the same message that he was already preaching, is that he knows who he is. He's going to stick to his gun.
Up.
And
I was so wrong. It came out in 2001, I think.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Maybe you're a little bit dyslexic.
Maybe a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funky and cool. I don't know that I would go and listen to it all the time, but I appreciate that it's like funky like that, and it's like really like well made. And he's kind of saying like, I'm doing my own thing. If you guys don't like it, kind of like deal with that. And so I give it a 4.3 on 5.
All right. I like this song because it's got like this crazy flowy story feel, and now that I know that it's at the same time-ish as like the other albums being created, it's almost like this song is the entirety of Firstborn's like synopsis. Like this song would be like the course summary given to you before you go through like the 10 weeks of learning the bullshit, you know?
Okay.
because a lot of it's fun. I really like shit like this year. If I don't this is a message to anyone I've met that thinks they know me. Don't pretend to understand none of the issues that I'm holding. And right off the jump, I'm like, man, that's an interesting point, right? Because like.
Yep.
Even myself, it might be like I'm trying to understand it or whatever, but even though he's putting the words down, and even though you might see a thing or whatever, that doesn't mean you really get it. You don't really know what's going on in his head. And assuming, if you didn't know, while it makes an ass out of you and me, assume.
Yep.
I was in a rush to grow up. I can relate to that. Look, Mom, no cuts. Like, I got through that shit because, like, look, Mom, no hands. And that's an interesting point. Just the stomach and disgust and the fear that I might go nuts this year if I don't slow up. I'll see you on my way one day. This shit'll kill me, but I guess that's okay. Damn, eh?
Yeah,
that's a powerful fucking line when you really think about it. And just the idea of you went through this whole psychological process of trying to understand the world and create these albums and shit, and that's just kind of really powerful. And I don't fucking love music. I just use it to escape. I'm caught between wanting to punch someone in the face and putting a bullet in my head to lead the human race. Just that coping mechanism, that passion. And then this beat just keeps flipping up, right? Like it just keeps becoming something new and invigorating to tell like a complete, like to move like the emotional narrative along. I don't know, man. It's really strong. So here it is. I'm finally coming out of my shell. All 19 years of my life, I've been in conflict with myself. I'm insecure about Wait, he's 19 when he wrote this?
Yeah.
Gosh, this kid is amazing. Well, he's not really a kid. This guy is amazing. You know, I'm insecure about every facet of my existence, from my addictions to the condition I choose to live in. Who you kidding? I suffer from anxious anxiety. Holy shit, he just defied millennials. The whole millennials, all of us. He just said it right there. I'm a product of pollution in American society. Millennials are the pollution of America? I guess so, eh? Because all of our parents did the same shit in the 80s and whatnot. The same attitudes, the same stuff. It really isn't that different than like our current... You know what's different? Social media. That's it. The amplification of the internet.
Yeah.
But they did it all when they could afford to buy the houses. So, like, they could actually prosper and grow wealth. And now we're trying to do what they're doing, and it's just making us neurotic because it's not possible logistically. We are, in fact, the pollution of American society, or the product of it. Oof, because, in the 80s, they fucked some shit up, okay? And the arts and the science, everything got fucked up back then, man. Anyway, I really like what Eyedea does with this, man. Everything that keeps me whole, everything that ever meant anything to ideas. So I leave with goal and hope to rip the leash that holds my focus, but the fact remains the same. I'm still bound by my chains. It doesn't matter if your chain is 10 feet or 100 feet. The fact remains the same. You're still bound by chains. I feel them on me every day of my life, and I relate to what he's saying. Like, even the guy who runs my company is wearing non-figures and all sorts of shit, right? He's trying to get shit done in life. He's got chains. Like everyone is. The president has chains. Trudeau has chains. Everybody has chains, and it's fucking crazy. Anyway, I like how it ends the main verse. I want to change, but I don't know if it can. I want life to change, but I don't know if it can. For a man or machine or whatever the fuck I am. And again, it's just that open pensive. Like, I want things to get better. Like, that's what's really different than I think a lot of other shit is. His raison d'etre, as I said, is positive. It's to create social growth. And he doesn't know if it's possible because he's killing his personality in the pursuit of the knowledge, and he's going through shit. And I like it a lot. And then I really like the because even shadows have shadows, and my secrets are eating me, eagerly feeding me to scream my dreams away, but they keep on defeating me, even shadows have shadows. And I like the idea that like the shadowy parts of life has an even shadowy part of life.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just got a proper thing. These things haunt at him. And I understand it. I mean, we went through the whole Firstborn album, so we already got the whole deep dive into kind of why he feels this way. But like I said, this is like the core syllabus to it, but it's epically great. I'm really happy we talked about this one. I know I might not have gone as deep as Gun Light. 5 on 5. Fucking great song.
Cool.
Liked it a lot. I guess we can do that thing where we wrap up.
Yeah.
I did not add the bonus songs that we talked about to my grade. So
me neither. So that's
I just
good.
ended it at track 17 or 17, and I get this a 4.652. this is absolutely a classic album. This is absolutely one of my new favorite albums. Like, I don't think this is an album I could listen to frequently, but I think this is an album that every time I listen to it for the rest of my life will bring me to a place of like you know how like there are people who are from the streets and they hear the drug dealers and shit and they can relate to that world, and so they feel that this is my version of that.
Yeah.
Conscious, intelligent weirdos going through philosophical explorations of trying to understand life while dealing with complex emotions. This is my life. The album form. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I gave this a 4.37 on 5, so it's an 87%. I liked it. It was really cool. It's pretty funky. The beats are awesome, and Abilities absolutely stands out as like a DJ. Like his skills are like maybe the best I've heard. Like he's really up there. Like he definitely stands out. Like I'm somebody that you just want to listen to. So I'm excited to kind of explore what he's been up to since or more recently. So I'm gonna check that out. And Eyedea is like so
his
different.
His wiki page doesn't have a whole lot going on past like the end of their shit.
I mean, it's fine. Like I get it.
But if you guys have stuff to recommend, you can let us know in the comments. You can send us those links to the cool. If you send us the links, I'll unspam it from the comments.
Yeah, and like Eyedea is like so different in his rhymes and like the messages that he like wants to get across. Sorry. And like yeah, he's like still like able to you know, stand like his own ground and like kind of like show I don't know, like compete with everybody else, like with the other like amazing rappers, and still like stand out and like still be like so, you know, and while still being like super creative and like talented, and like he's really something. And rest in peace, like definitely gone too soon, like for sure.
I'd be a huge fan of his today.
Yeah,
I guess I am a huge fan of his now.
you'll get there.
But yeah, thank y'all for watching. Totally appreciate you being here with us. It's super awesome. I look forward to reading your comments, hearing what you have to say, hearing what albums you want us to review that we'll get to at some point in the future, one day down the line. If you do like what we do and you want to support that shit, you can hit that subscribe button, you can hit that like button, and you could leave a comment, and then that's the YouTube thing, and I'll answer you if you leave a comment, because if you'll probably have noticed, every comment got an answer. Well, unless this is like 5 years in the future, and that's not the truth anymore, but for the today it is the truth, because I make podcasts for the people in the future, in the present, based on my past motherfuckers. Anyway, that was lame. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadamsi, thank you for your request; Chris Prado, TJ Black Hurricane, Linda Williams, and Jonathan Barnes. They support what we do, helped us get a nicer camera, and they get to tell us what albums to review. So every 3 weeks, you'll see it's another Patreon request. They all pick classic albums, but you could like sign up and you could tell us to review Dolly Parton, and we'd have to.
Oh my God, do it.
They also get access to content early. So like Ismail had his comment on this review long before it went, well, hours before it went public. And yeah, I don't know. But just you can help us get to that next level. Plus, if you don't want to really spend money, for $1 a month, you can just say what's up, and that would be super dope.
Yeah.
Anyway, I figure I'll push it a little more. Everyone else on YouTube seems to be hustling their patrons. So what the fuck else am I gonna do? Like I said, we don't make money right now. So anyway, I don't want to go be that guy. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that this is and being able to talk to y'all. And that's really what motivates me.
Yep.
Making a lot of money would also be nice though. Anyway, make music, and you can check that out on the channel. It would be really awesome of you, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I made sure it's the top playlist on the channel. That's right, promoting my own shit. Anyway, thank y'all. It's dope. Have a great time. Week, whatever.
Bye, guys.
Bye.